Hello out there, and welcome to the No Shit Cast. I'm your host, Matt Frazier. Got a good lineup of discussion topics tonight. Sitting in the co-pilot seat as usual, none other than the great wizard of historical knowledge himself, Mr. Eric D. Smith. How are you tonight, Mr. Smith?
I am doing Van-Grubalicious.
Man, I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me feel good, dude. That puts me in a happy space. I got to tell you, it's good stuff.
Right.
So we had a really interesting day today. We had a visit from our friend and friend of the show, Anthony Hamalainen. He was in the studio today doing some vocal work and stuff. So it was a great visit with him. So big news will be coming up from him and Daughter Chaos here coming soon. So we're looking forward to that. And I'm sworn to secrecy. He did kind of fill me in on the big news, but I can't talk about it or he'll have to kill me. And I know for a fact he probably can.
Yeah. I can't say it was fun to watch. It was really interesting.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
watching
really,
him work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude,
really
it's
cool.
like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Yep. So, just a basic, shouldn't say basic, one of our regular fun-filled evenings of news articles and satire.
Not unleaded, folks, but
not unleaded.
regular.
Regular, yeah, full leaded.
So prepare.
Yeah, get ready for, terminal birth defects. Why am I saying that? That's what led, yes, I don't know. So this comes from WOWK-TV 13. A woman thought she had kidney stones, Eric, and gave birth to triplets. That seems a little far. So the whole time you were pregnant, you thought.
See, I've never had kidney stones nor babies, so I'm not sure how you can mistake those two things. It
seems a little improbable, doesn't it?
It does, but I don't know because I'm not sure.
Not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV.
Right? Those kidney stones, they hurt, right?
Well, the one, I guess, anecdotal story I have about it was a dude I was in the Navy with that peed one out in the hangar bay bathroom.
And then that hurts. Okay, like they were showing on the Green Mile, right?
Yeah, dude. It's far worse than that. Like, we thought that somebody was being crushed under a piece of equipment or something as everybody came running out of the shops to see what the blood curdling screaming was. And it was a dude passing a kidney stone. It was just echoing around inside, it was a bathroom right off the hangar. But so never experienced one, but don't wanna.
What do you think it might be like to have 3 babies inside of you right now?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have kids, and I know that.
But they've never been inside me.
But they've never been inside me, thank God. Well, I mean, at least a part of them was.
That's before they were kids, though.
But that certainly wasn't painful. Not if you're doing it right.
So that's our best guess at what's going on with this lady.
This is from Sturgis, South Dakota. South Dakota woman who recently gave birth to triplets says she didn't find out about her pregnancy until she went to the hospital with what she thought were kidney stones. KOTA-TV reports Danette Giltz of Sturgis gave birth to the healthy triplets on August 10th. Giltz says that despite having 2 other children, she did not know she was 34 weeks pregnant. Wow. She says that when she started having pains, she thought it was from kidney stones, which she has had before. Oh, okay. I've heard of people like not knowing they're pregnant until it's hey, you're in labor.
But that's because that's like 8.5 months, right?
Yeah.
32 weeks or whatever. That's ready to give birth practically.
It's not an uncommon thing, man. I know that there are girls that don't necessarily know and I don't know how it all works down there, and I'm not a gynecologist, so I'm not even going to, I know enough for the stuff I've got to deal with, right? That's about it.
I know how to get in, but I don't know anything about how anything works.
It might even be argued how much I know about that. But I've heard this before that women will start putting the weight on necessary to birth a child and will start taking dramatic measures to try to curb their weight gain. And it's like, but this is not good for the kid, you know what I mean? So I've heard this before. It's kind of freaky, but I've heard of this before. It's like, oh, you're pregnant. What?
I was told by an emergency physician that I would be good at giving birth.
you would be good at having children?
Mm-hmm.
Like you'd be good at assisting a female birthing a child, or you would be a good chick? Which side of the coin are we on here, man? Just give me some direction.
Kind of in the middle, I guess. Like, I don't know, because it's a dumb story.
Well, then now you definitely got to share it.
I had the
tap dance, baby. Come on, tap.
Let's just say that I had to go into the doctors and get something lanced. And let's just say it was really, 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 really close to areas that you want to protect.
That you don't want lanced, yeah.
That you don't want lanced, right? And like she's talking to me, and she's down there, and she's like, "Hey, I'm getting ready to lance this, right? You ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just talking like I am on the show." And she lances it, and I'm just talking away, and she kind of looks over at me. I smile, and she nods. I nod, and I keep talking.
You've got this freakish fucking inability to feel pain.
Yeah, And then she started sewing me up and stuff, and she says she's got worried at one point. She stopped me from talking. She said, "You do feel this, don't you?" Because she started to worry. And
like she lanced a nerve or something. Yeah,
something. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I feel it. I'm trying not to pay any attention to it. Yeah. You just keep talking, it'd be great."
Yeah, you've got a freakishly high pain threshold. Is the thing.
Just trying not to pay attention to it.
Is that genetic for you?
I don't know. I think it's because I just don't pay attention. No, I mean, I really do. I'm really good at concentrating on other things. On other things, yeah. Just distracting yourself, yeah,
right?
Because I feel it. Well, just ignore it.
You'd be a good person to give top secret information to. That.
No, I'm not saying I like it. I don't like it at all, man.
You're not fucking volunteering for it.
And I didn't get that ability from trying to make myself hurt. I got it from like studying and stuff.
Yeah, just having a deep sense of concentration. Yeah. Huh? Let's see. The triplets were born within 4 minutes. Each weighed 4 pounds. That's small because they're triplets. The babies' names are Blaze, Gypsy, and Nikki.
That's great names. I like those names.
I do too.
Yeah, they're very fitting for kids that come out of nowhere.
Am I being stereotypical when I say, though, that based on these baby names, I'm not surprised that this woman didn't know she was pregnant?
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I probably shouldn't go into details.
Okay.
Maybe it's just better if I don't.
I don't even understand how it happened, man. I can't pass any judgment.
You don't understand how babies are made? So what you do is you take a penis.
Okay. All right.
Are you sure you don't understand?
We're good so far. I got that.
maybe we'll go off the air and talk about this. I'll get some pictures for you.
Nobody wants to hear these things. I got scotch.
I do too. Well, I don't anymore. I had scotch. This one comes from Unilad. Alligator filmed climbing over fence and making way into military base.
Oh, yeah.
If the dinosaurs can break into military bases, Eric, we're fucked.
Well, I say you take them down to Nevada in the desert just for a time, plenty of water.
Are we talking near Roswell kind of thing?
Yeah, send them in while you're partying, just get them. Over the fence they go. It's probably not good that alligators climb fences.
Do you think they can narrow to run? Alligators?
Not. I mean, if they can for short distances, they can.
Because that's what I've heard, right? I hear they can run a human down. They can run a dog down.
Yeah, they're pretty quick. But if you can get like 50 yards away at least or more, you're good, probably.
My buddy Lorenzo, last time I was doing work down in Florida, I met this engineer from Italy. His name's Lorenzo. And he asked me, he goes, "So, are there really alligators here?" I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember the exact conversation, but I'll give you the gist of it. And I go, "Yeah, it's Florida, man." And he goes, because he fishes. And while we were down there, he actually bought a rod and reel and stuff and actually went fishing and stuff. So he asked me, he goes, "Well, are they fast?" I go, "From what I understand, they can run a dog down out of the water." Yeah, you don't want to
get close to them, man.
He goes, "So what do I do?" I said, "Well, I would recommend not getting eaten by one. Like, don't do that." And he goes, "Well, no, I get that." He goes, "But what do I do if one comes after me?" I said, "The only thing I understand, dude, and I don't even know if this is true, and if you're being dismembered by an alligator because you took my advice, that's on you." Right? Just so we're clear. But from what I understand is you don't want to run away from them in a straight line. You want to like turn. Because that's the one thing they can't do is turn 90 degrees very fast. Yeah. They can go straight ahead with their tail, but if they're coming after you and you run perpendicular to them away from them, it slows them down a lot.
Yeah.
It makes it much harder for them to get to you, and then they give up. But if you back straight up, they'll just conk and drag your ass into the water, and then it's over, man.
And they start rolling with you, and you're going.
Ugh.
I've seen some people in videos get their arms twisted off like that.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a way to... Sharks has got to be bad, too.
None of it's good.
None of it's good. Mother Nature is a bitch, man.
Yeah,
like, it does not care.
Yeah, you can dance with her, but you can't tell her what to do.
It's like Mother Nature makes one distinction amongst humans. Food or not food. Like, that's it. Are you food or are you not food? You're not food. I'll leave you alone. So picture the scene. You're driving along the road and minding your own business when all of a sudden you see something moving out of the corner of your eye. Not just any something, though. Pulling your car over to look out of the window, you spot a ginormous alligator sliding alongside the grassy verge just meters away from you. As terrifying as that may sound for the majority of us, for those in Florida, this is simply a regular occurrence, as one woman found out recently when she saw a gator making its way into a military base. Christina Stewart spotted the alligator on Saturday, August 17th, and immediately shared pictures and footage of the incident on her Facebook page. Videos of the incredible moment the huge reptile enters the military base shows the alligator climbing slowly up a fence before reaching the top and landing on the floor on the other side. That's the ground.
Yeah.
Okay. Right?
I agree with you totally.
That seems a little weird to say floor, right? The alligator can then be seen moving slowly away from the fence and into the base, which, according to the Mail Online, was the Naval Air Station Jacksonville.
Yeah. Hey, you guys got an alligator in your front yard.
Oh, dude, I can give you. You want some stories?
Yeah.
Okay. While I was in Virginia Beach with Fighter Squadron VF 101, the Grim Reapers, living out my Top Gun fantasies, which nothing like the movie. On any level, right? But there was a lot. We had fun and merriment, but nothing like that. But anyway, I think while I was there, at least 2, if not 3 airplanes of our airplanes hit deer on the runway.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you have this F-14 coming, and generally it was on landing, although I think it did happen on takeoff once. But anyway, the deer just explodes when it hits. When this airplane hits it, these things are huge. You know, I mean, they're fighter jets, but nonetheless, they're still big pieces of equipment.
Sure, yeah.
And they're screaming down the runway, you know, trying to slow down to make their turn to get off the runway, and a deer bolts out in front of them. It's not like they can swerve. No. It's $32 million worth of military hardware. You don't stick it in the ditch because a deer ran in front of it, or a squirrel, or pretty much anything.
Yeah, right.
So they hit them, and it covers the airplanes and parts and stuff, and then you have to go out and take like fire hoses and shit and clean all this stuff off. I know I've like a first-hand experience with this like several times. It's pretty sad. But in Key West, these crabs, there was a certain time of year when these crabs would come up onto the flight line, and they're about the size of a fucking dinner plate, man. They're not like little. So you'd be walking along the flight line, okay, and it was like, okay, so you're on like completely dry pavement. It's not raining. There's nothing slippery. You're walking along, it's pitch black. You're on concrete, and then all of a sudden you're on your back because you step on one of these fucking things. It's like hitting ice. It's like boom, and down you go, right? But they're everywhere. It's insane, man. They come out of like they come up out of the water, and they just cover the flight lines, but they still expect us to go out there and work. And there's just crabs everywhere. So one of the jobs that I had was I towed the airplanes. I'd hook tractors and stuff up to them and tow them to different places when they needed to be maintenance or whatever. So it got to be like a game where when I was towing them, I would try to get I'd see a crab, and I would try to get the main landing gear, we call it the main mount on the airplane, to run over them. So I'm like swerving, towing this airplane, you know, out all across the flight line, squishing crabs and shooting them out of their.
Reminds me of Mario.
There was a dude that we actually took and we put one in his tool pouch and closed it up. and he didn't like them, and it freaked him out. So he put his tool pouch on, like buckled it on, and then opened his tool pouch to see if all of his tools were there. And there's this crab in there, like, hello. And he tried to run from it, but it was like attached to him.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, things we did to entertain ourselves. As Christina filmed the reptile's movements from the safety of her car, she states, "There it goes, over the fence it went. A shocked child can then be heard exclaiming, 'Oh,' in the background repeatedly before Christina laughs at something they say." The Facebook post went viral, attracting more than 3.7 thousand likes and the video of a massive 304,000 views in the few short days since it was posted. There you go.
Yeah,
dinosaurs are able to break into our military bases.
Yeah, man, they're adapting.
I mean, how long before they have laser beams?
I hope not too long.
Really?
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool.
You and I have a different opinion of what kind of cool is.
Little mini apocalypse.
Again, with the apocalypse, huh? Have you ever owned like an ant farm?
No, that would be silly.
Well, I mean, you like mini apocalypse.
Yeah, but that's why it would be silly. Yeah. Nobody would give me one of those.
I think you can just like order them online, man.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be cruel.
Yeah.
Not to animals.
It's not an animal. It's an insect. Is it the same?
It is to me.
Are you, what are those people that starve themselves to death? And
no, Jainism.
Jainism. Are you Jainist now? You won't kill bugs?
No, I just have nothing against them unless I have to kill them. Like sometimes I have to kill them.
Don't we all?
I had a big giant wolf spider try to catch me once.
Tried to catch you?
Yeah, man.
Like it was physically chasing you?
No, it was building a web in the shower. It was one of the single stall showers.
Yeah.
And it had a web stretched back and forth. Yeah, like it was trying. Like I'd walk into the shower and I'd be in the web. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm like, no, man, that's going too far. You're not catching me.
No,
and he was the biggest wolf spider I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah.
And but he perished.
He did, and when I killed him, his innards. It was in the corner of the shower, right? So triangulate that, right? And as I went down and hit that spider, all of its insides just came up right in my eye, dude. I did not even have a chance to shut my eye because I was really hitting it hard trying to kill it because it was fucking huge. And that thing just shit its innards into my fucking eyeball. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to fucking die because they got venom or something. They just didn't bite me, but now it's in my eyeball. And at
least you're losing an eye. At the very least, you might not die, but maybe you're gonna lose it.
Maybe, yeah. And so, like, I wiped it out with water and stuff, and waited for like 2 days for either get mutation powers or to die.
Neither happened.
Neither happened. No, fortunately, I guess it's not a big deal.
You didn't get like super spider senses or anything.
Nothing. No, it was just like nothing happened. You know, like all right, cool.
It's totally robbed, man. That's bullshit.
No, it was fine. I didn't want nothing to happen. It was terrible when it happened, but I don't want nothing further to happen after that. That was bad enough.
So let that be example to you folks. Don't ever squish a bug in a corner.
Yeah, man. Like,
see, that's why we share this stuff, Eric, so that the people that listen don't have to, when they trap the wolf spider.
Shit. You gotta know. This is shit you should know.
This is shit you should know.
If you're gonna hit a spider, like kind of do like the alligator thing, stand off at a 90-degree angle while you hit it, or throw it, or close your eye,
or put a rag over it, or something that can contain the blast radius.
Sacrifice a dove to Mars, whatever it takes. To make sure you don't get it in your eye, because you won't feel good about yourself. You'll feel like you've made an intrinsic mistake, and the universe has repaid you.
That's it, man. We're bringing you the laws of physics, folks.
Yeah.
Physics is a bitch.
Keep physics out of your eyeball. It's always bad there.
This is from Unilad. You're not a car guy.
I have played some of the video games, though.
Also, you're familiar at least what a Bugatti Veyron is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So Bugatti announces brand new $9 million hypercar.
That's an awesome looking vehicle.
That thing looks like it needs wings and a target.
It looks like a transformer, man. Like it's going to transform into a robot and eat your soul and then go drive off. At
least take the Tesseract? Whatever, yeah.
Take it from your heart and eat it and drive off.
Bugatti has paid homage to one of its most popular cars from the 1990s with a run of 10 one-of tributes. Ugh.
Wow.
How do you pronounce that word?
Where?
Behold the Centodieci.
Oh God, I don't know. Centodieci?
Centodieci.
Maybe.
It sounds very Italian. Which has been unveiled at Pebble Beach, California, as a Chiron-based masterpiece. It's the most powerful Bugatti yet, with a whopping 1,600 horsepower. This is a street car.
You'll accelerate so fast you're going to leave your soul 10 feet behind you. Like, oh my God, I just lost my entire soul.
I'm sorry, but what really makes it stand out
yeah.
The most is that its designers aim to bring the classic EB110 into the modern era. I don't know what that means because I don't know what the EB110 is a mid-engine supercar that debuted in 1991. According to Top Gear, it was built by Mondina by Romano Artioli, powered by 550 horsepower, 3.5-liter quad-turbo V12 with a carbon fiber chassis. It was a vehicle ahead of its time. So this is kind of back like when this really started to become a thing with the supercars was the 80s and 90s because of, what was that, Miami Vice and shows like that, right? While the latest masterpiece from the now Volkswagen-owned manufacturer is clearly based on a Chiron, it has intricate details that pay homage to the 90s. It's got a low-dropping front, just like the EB110, along with a deep-seated front spoiler. It's even got brand-new narrow headlamps. It's pretty funny when the 90s is retro. God, we're getting old, bro. What the fuck? The 8-liter W16 engine can accelerate from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 2.4 seconds, and Bugatti... Did you catch that? 0 to 60, 2.4 seconds.
That's what I'm saying, man. It goes so fast you leave part of your soul 10 feet behind you. It's got to catch up with you.
Bugatti says the car's top speed has been limited to 236 miles per hour. We wouldn't want you going too fast in this thing, Eric.
Right.
Bugatti head designer Akim Anschied. Here we go with the German shit again, said in a statement, "We faced a number of technical challenges in terms of the development and design of the Centodieci. The EB110 is a very flat, wedge-shaped, and graphically quasi-two-dimensional supercar of the late 1980s. Transporting this classic look into the new millennium without copying it was technically complex, to say the least. We had to create a new way of combining the complex aerothermal requirements of the underlying Chiron technology with a completely different aesthetic appearance." God, look at that thing, Eric. It does, dude. It looks like something alien.
I have a Camry.
I got a RAV4. Bugatti are only producing 10 models of the Centodieci, and they're apparently already sold. Deliveries aren't taking place until 2022, with the company having other orders they need to fill. So they've built one of these, sold it, and then told everybody, well, you got to wait until we can actually put them together.
Yeah. Designed one.
And I'll bet you that you've got to fork over that $9 million and you're not getting your car until 2022.
Right.
So you've not only do you got to buy it for $9 million, you got to be able to float $9 million for 4 years.
And make sure you live a few years too. So you can get your vehicle.
Yeah, there's probably all these specifications about how they don't return your money if something, like.
Yeah, there's no Weir Guild money. Your woman won't get the money if you die, or your
or the car.
Won't. Yeah, or the man won't, or whoever.
That's pretty messed up, huh? God, it's just sick. I can't even. I mean, when is it too much now?
I don't know, but if that's not too much, those considerations that we were talking about probably don't matter to the people that have that kind of money, I'm guessing.
I think those cars at top speed, though, will empty a full gas tank in less than 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yeah.
I wonder how many miles you can get on.
Well, it's 236 miles per hour, but you're pushing so much force down the road with air, with the air resistance. Mm-hmm. That the car, I mean, eventually what it does is the air resistance reaches an equilibrium with the horsepower.
Gotcha.
And you can't go any faster, right? But you're utilizing the maximum horsepower out of that engine when you reach that point. So it's just sucking gas to get there. That's the thing. It's the same thing, by the way, in fighter jets. I was really shocked to learn how fast in afterburner they run out of gas, like real quick. Like, you don't want to be, you think, oh, man, I'm going to go out there and hit the afterburner. No, man, like 2 minutes, you're out of gas. Like, you're done. Time to find a tank or start swimming. Like, you're done. A tanker. So this is from CNET.com. So we'll kind of venture our way back into some technical stuff here, Mr. Smith.
Okay.
The weird repeating signals from deep space just tripled. Fast radio bursts are getting more attention from scientists who can now detect more of them. Scientists suddenly have a whole lot more data on one of the strangest and most recent mysteries in the cosmos, so-called fast radio bursts. First discovered in 2007, these fleeting blasts of radio waves originate thousands, millions, or even billions of light years away from Earth. FRBs have influenced design of new radio telescopes like the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment.
Yeah, I remember we talked a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now a team of Canadian and American researchers used CHIME have reported a major new set of FRB detections that could fine-tune our understanding of where these enigmatic signals come from and what produces them. Aliens.
Probably not.
I want it to be aliens so bad, Eric.
Maybe.
I can wish upon a star. The group says it discovered 8 new bursts that repeat. Repeating FRBs are highly valuable from an observational perspective since their repeating nature make them better candidates for localizing their host galaxies with multi-wavelength follow-up observations that can help determine if FRBs emit at wavelengths other than radio. One of the researchers who is based at the University of Toronto and co-author of the paper about the FRBs, Ryan McNiven, says, those follow-up observations could provide details about the origins of the strange bursts. He added a large sample size of repeating FRBs to study could also help scientists answer one of the obvious questions about non-repeating FRBs. Could they actually be repeating FRBs that just haven't been recorded as repeating yet? So better instruments, better measurements is kind of what he's getting at. I cover this because I bring this up
He
because
could be saying that they all could be repeating.
and we just don't know it
Right.
necessarily because we're not looking at them right or correctly or with a good enough instrument.
You bring it up because why?
Well, this is the kind of shit that ends up on Ancient Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
That says that aliens are trying to talk to us,
look,
right? So what I'm trying to get at here is that there's actually some understood phenomena here kind of thing, right?
Well, there's radio waves that they're talking about travel at the speed of light, just like gamma waves,
Right.
and X-rays, and all that, right? Normally, the things that are giving off radio waves are things that are exploding in some fashion, like
Large bursts of energy of some sort. Yeah, that makes sense.
Stuff falling into a black hole, neutron stars that rotate, center of galaxies that have a lot of stars at their cluster. There's a lot of things that can do that. And then they were saying in the article that they wanted to see if there were any other forms of radiation. So they must mean things like gamma rays or X-rays, because gamma rays are indicative of something really big like a black hole, because gamma rays occupy the highest frequency to any of that spectrum, any of the energy emission spectrum, right? But radio waves are not at that high end, so maybe it's not that unless there's something else along with those radio waves that they can detect.
So they're looking for correlation right now to see if they can find any.
Yeah, and if things were be repeating, that would be weird, right? Because, like, if, for instance, you were asking, the only thing so far that we really see that has been repeating were pulsars, which were spinning neutron stars. And they spin at a regular rate, and so they're kind of like universal clocks. But we haven't seen anything else that repeats with that regularity, unless this would be one of those things. If we're finding radio wave bursts that repeat, something's repeating, something's causing them, and it's probably something destructive, but not as destructive as a black hole.
Yeah, and it's not something that they just turn an antenna on either. That's the maddening part about all of this, right? Is they have to focus sort of where they're looking in a very specific place. Mm-hmm. And like this new system, I think in the article was also saying that they only look at the sky once per day, like the entire sky once per day.
Well, so
they're not monitoring it continuously because the amount of data would just be overwhelming.
Yeah. And that other article was talking about, wasn't it saying stuff about AI that they were using to predict?
Yeah, so they could focus in on them more.
Yeah.
So this is you're right. This is like a supplement to it.
Yeah. This is like them gathering a lot of data that they weren't able to gather before because they couldn't predict when they were going to happen.
See, I'm fascinated by this shit ever since you and I talked about the game theory or the dark forest
Dark Forest.
Yeah, the dark forest theory, where you want to be very quiet because the predators will know where you are. So that's actually why we don't see any signs of life in the galaxy So every time there's something about
things happening on
things happening, where
especially with regularity,
like something that could be a transmitted signal or something like that. I'm very fascinated by this because that's that premise that you're always telling me about is like if life is so persistent, then where is it?
Well,
so I'm always waiting for them to pick up that radio signal that goes, ooh, that's artificial, that's made like somehow, The
reason that everything ends up in a sphere, planets are sphere-shaped, stars are, and black hole event horizons are, the reason why, though, is because it's the most energy efficient shape that you can have, right? And this kind of a situation is what allows angular momentum to arise, which is why most things that are spherical are going to spin.
Are going to spin as well.
Right. Yep. So when you consider that most of the things in the universe are round and spinning,
except for the Earth, it's flat.
Right, but it's spinning. And if it was emitting any kind of a signal of any sort, that signal would spin and it would be a repeating signal.
Right.
It would be like dun, 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 dun. And then as long as this thing spun, which is a natural property, right? So a lot of people, when they talk about repeating signals, they talk about thinking about aliens and stuff, but actually the actual more explanation that would be more likely is it's some sort of angular momentum off of a spherical object.
So not only am I hoping that they detect and quantify this stuff, which I totally agree that there's natural phenomena that cause large exchanges of energy. These are cosmic events that happen, pretty much regularly,
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, though, is I always hold out that hope that there's going to be that signal
me too,
somewhere, like at some level, I'm always holding out that that's going to be a thing, that this is going to actually happen, and we're going to pick up some signal.
But I think what happens is that the people reporting these news stories are trying to overemphasize their interest about things like that, right? It's a really cool article. It's a cool thing that's going on. It's something we need to do. But I think the person writing it's like, well, nobody's going to really care unless I allude to the fact that this repeating signal might represent in some way an alien civilization, when it may not be likely at all, right? Because if an alien civilization was communicating with us, they'd probably use something a bit more complicated than just some kind of a repeating signal, right?
Why do we assume that, though?
Well, because we would assume that if they're technological enough to send a signal like that they must be at least our level or above, and we would probably send something other than just a rotating signal. We've worked out more clever methods of sending signals.
I would think that an advanced alien species that was trying to contact other life forms in the universe would say, I need to try to contact everybody on their level, so would probably do it in a multitude of ways.
Yeah. And they could also find a universal way, like the way they test that SETI at home stuff.
Right.
They're looking for a signal in a certain bandwidth and stuff, just things like that. But at any rate, that's what I think is happening. I think that I still hold out hope.
I'm a billion to one that it's just natural phenomena.
But I'm still holding out hope.
Me too.
Because the universe is big. So big that we don't even know what the hell this shit is that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
Like, we're still trying to figure out what this shit is. What's this repeating radio mid-frequency energy emission thing? Like, we don't know what it is. We need to figure it out.
So there's a lot of math that even with the recent Goldilocks zone and rotation things we've been talking about, and how that really starts to narrow planets that can have sort of the same kind of carbon-based life forms and everything that we have, that it starts thinning the possibilities out tremendously.
It really does, yeah.
But in the galactic sense, or in the cosmological sense, there's still room for thousands of
those variations of those types,
still all working and creating life forms that can do what we've done. Yeah.
There's a lot more too, man. There's
it's just that we don't see them.
You have to be, if you're talking about carbon-based life, right? You have to have planets that form not only like we've talked about in the Goldilocks zone and have water and all this, but they have to be in a star system with a type of star that's able to create heavy elements today. And there's only so many of those kinds of stars in certain places in the galaxy. And those stars themselves can't be too close to the galactic inner disk area because of all the radiation that comes from there. And it can't be too far out either. And so there's all these issues. And
I agree.
No,
I agree. But even with all of those restrictions, there's still math there that says, they should be there.
Yeah, they could at least appear at least one more time, fairly likely.
Yeah, but we don't see them.
No, and as Neil deGrasse Tyson points out all the time, like the top 3 constituent components of your body in terms of elements are the top 3 elements that you find everywhere in the universe.
That's right. So it seems very likely, or the potential is there nonetheless. Tremendous.
It's one of the things we need to ask the chemist about.
Oh yeah, right.
The article where they found a new breakthrough in chemical life.
Oh right, he had to cancel. We got to get him lined back up. I got to circle back with him, and we got a physicist too that wants to come on
tomorrow.
And
or whenever.
No, Neil. Right now we're verbally scheduled for Neil Thompson on the show from the Electric Universe stuff, and that's the Q&A. He's ready for the big Q&A on like how does this work, and I don't understand this part kind of thing.
Yes, I'm excited.
And then there's a physicist that we've been messaging on back and forth with on Skype that wants to come on.
Friend or somebody else?
No, this is a referral from someone else that's been on the show. It's from Ramon actually, and so we're he's another person that we can talk to and kind of get that perspective on the whole physics perspective.
Did you get a hold of your friend?
No, he isn't. He isn't at MIT anymore. He's on LinkedIn though, so
still.
I should definitely reach out to him.
Yeah.
Okay, so you ready to do another article, Bubba?
I'm ready.
You look ready.
I'm ready.
You're eager with anticipation. ScientificAmerican.com. Misinformation has created a new world disorder.
Ooh, misinformation has created a new world disorder. Scientific American. Very, very interesting.
I already said that part.
Oh, continue on.
Our willingness to share content without thinking is exploited to spread disinformation. As someone who studies the impact of misinformation on society, I often wish the young entrepreneurs of Silicon Valley who enabled communication at speed had been forced to run a 9/11 scenario with their technologies before they deployed them commercially. One of the most iconic images from that day shows a large clustering of New Yorkers staring upward. The power of the photograph is that we know the horror they're witnessing. It is easy to imagine that day almost everyone in that scene would be holding a smartphone. Some would be filming their observations and posting them to Twitter and Facebook. Powered by social media, rumors and misinformation would be rampant. Hate-filled posts aimed at Muslims would proliferate, and speculation and outrage boasted by the algorithms responding to unprecedented levels of shares, comments, and likes. Foreign agents of disinformation would amplify the division, driving wedges between communities and sowing chaos. Meanwhile, those stranded on the tops of the towers would be live streaming their final moments. Yikes.
That's pretty grim.
Yeah, so we're going to have some fun with this, huh? Stress testing technology in the context of the worst moments in history might have illuminated what social scientists and propagandists have long known. Humans are wired to respond to emotional triggers and share misinformation if it reinforces existing beliefs and prejudices.
Sure.
This is all caveman brain stuff.
Yes.
Because it seems so intuitive, because it belies in that place of your brain. It's not, people rarely even question this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so immediately responding to situations. Yeah.
Instead, designers of the social platforms fervently believed that connection would drive tolerance and counteract hate. They failed to see how technology would not change who we are fundamentally. It would only map onto existing human characteristics, which is exactly what happens, an amplifier, right? Online misinformation has been around since the mid 1990s, but in 2016, events made it broadly clear that darker forces had emerged. Automation, micro-targeting, and coordination were fueling information campaigns designed to manipulate public opinion at scale. Journalists in the Philippines started raising red flags as Rodrigo Duterte rose to power, buoyed by intensive Facebook activity. This was followed by unprecedented results in the Brexit referendum in June and then the U.S. presidential election in November, all of which sparked research to systemically investigate the ways in which information was being used as a weapon. So I watched the documentary about this shit on Netflix. I think it's called The Big Hack or The Great Hack or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this is where this shit starts to get really insidious, man, is at this level where innocuous data about a person you think doesn't mean anything. It's whatever, it's safe. What color your eyes are, whatever, okay? Mm-hmm. But to these AI and to these systems, all of those data points help to formulate a picture of you as an individual. Then they turn around. Now, from a strictly commercial standpoint, this is old hat, right?
Yes.
You market to your audience. Mm-hmm. Pretty straightforward, right? So if you're selling a product in one part of the United States, your commercials will look totally different than if you're selling that same product in another part of the United States, right? No big deal. But we always kind of looked at this as a community thing. Like, we were okay with that. It's like, yeah, man, it's culturally relevant because of where I geographically reside.
Yeah, I see.
Okay,
yeah.
So it's taken as being that the advertising's trying to be unoffensive to the demographic. Okay, they want. Of course, they don't want to be offensive. They want you to respond.
Right. They want you. So,
now, what's happened, however, with this granularity that they have to the individual through things like social media and the internet, is it gives them the ability to do that exact same thing, though, but they're doing it at the person level.
Yes.
Now, so commercially, this is what we talk about all the time: how the algorithm shows me ads that I'm interested in, and it seems like that it's listening to me.
Sure.
It turns out that in most cases, it's not listening to you. What you're responding to, as what we respond to as people, is, man, that's weird, man. My phone's like listening to me when I'm having conversations because I'm seeing ads. Yeah. That's not, it's worse. It's far worse than your phone's listening to you. Okay. What has happened is, with all those data points that they've collected, okay, and through comparison and with the AI that can look at other people that fit sort of your data criteria and what ads you respond to and things like that, they're able to derive what you're interested in.
Sure.
So when you see those ads for, like, in your case, it was the sound
stuff.
Yeah, the keyboard stuff. That is not some microphone picking you up talking about that stuff.
No.
That it's actually figuring you out to that level. Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what I was implying, was that not that anything's listening to you, but that if you're honest with the AI, you'll get honest feedback. Is basically what I'm saying. It's
spooky accurate because it's spooky accurate. That's what it is.
It's designed to take you and give you.
And we've never said, like, I'm not trying to say, we never really diagnosed or sat down and kind of thought through, well, why is it listening to me on my microphone? Is it, we've said, I kind of dig it because it gives me the shit I'm interested in. So it saves me time. So I'm not really upset about it. So that's what I mean. Like, we never really went under the hood to talk about how this works.
No, but there are so many data points, and some of those data points are what websites you're going to go to, what kind of music you're listening to, what movies you're watching, where you're getting them at and stuff. And the more freer you are with that knowledge, and who are you not sharing that knowledge with anyway? You know.
Well, okay, so from a strictly commercial standpoint, we kind of appreciate it, right? We think it's cool. Now, here's where it gets weird, though, because what these companies have also figured out is through these exact same mechanisms now, where they can figure out what you're into so much that it seems like the computer's listening to you. Mm-hmm. It's not, but it understands you that well. That's how good these algorithms work, right? Mm-hmm. They've also figured out that they can use these exact same algorithms and these exact same methodologies to change public opinion.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
And that's what's happening.
But it's like, as a human, you owe it to yourself protect yourself and your intellect and to protect
buyer beware.
Yeah. And
Okay.
to protect.
I think we're so far beyond buyer beware as a society anymore, though, man. Not that it shouldn't be. We shouldn't be.
It's more insidious now.
Yeah.
It's more difficult to be aware.
Yeah.
Right. But this isn't going to be rolled back.
Well, here's the rub, and this is where I think that this all starts to come apart. Okay, because this data that we've allowed to be collected upon of all of us, is being sold to other people.
Sure. Yeah.
Access to this data, utilization of this data is being sold as a profit center.
Yeah.
And we're not getting any say in that whatsoever, nor are we receiving any of the profits.
And there's
from
probably not any organization that could create the infrastructure to allow us to have the say in what happens to that mass amount of data that's flying around.
Well, I think it's fair to say, though, don't you, that you're entitled to, if someone's profiting off
you're
of me,
entitled to, but
that's unjust enrichment. I mean,
yeah,
bam,
but
done.
People don't even know how many people's security and information has been breached, right?
Right.
Like there's so much of that.
Well, we do. Well, see, here's the thing. They've already admitted that they do this. So it's not a matter of if they profit off of individuals' data or not. We know they do.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, where's the people now that come up and go, cool, okay, I want my cut.
Sure, but until they can quantify it on that individual level, I don't think there's even a chance that will happen. And people are buying this data in wholesale, right, and sifting through it. Like the people that possess the data, sell the data, and buy the data themselves don't know exactly what's in it, but they do have AI that sift through it, and they take things from it at random, like people's identities and stuff.
Right.
And they can use it over and over, and it'll probably be like old software. You know how old software just kind of becomes public domain, or an old song or an old book, right? Eventually you just give it to the public. That's probably how people's
we're all going to get so used to and understood of how manipulated that we are by advertising and propaganda that will somehow that will eventually just become immune to it.
Well,
like,
no,
it won't affect
I'm just
us
saying
that way
that
anymore.
like 20 years after you die,
Yeah.
all of your personal information, your social security number, bank account, anything like that could become public information almost by default, because nobody can keep tracking it, especially the things that went before. Well,
privacy as by and large is completely dead now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to police the privacy. Like, people are entitled to it. Yeah, you should beware, but it's so hard. It's like people leak information.
What concerns me, though, man, is that it's not. Look, I think that knowledge is power, right? So the more people that understand how something works, the less susceptible they become to it, right? The magic trick doesn't work anymore once you understand how the magician does it. You follow me? Like, it loses its sort of impact, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as all this stuff starts to flesh out with what's been happening, the different types of manipulation and the things that have been happening. I don't see this continuing this way. Like, I see regulation starting to step in, and I do think there's going to be lawsuits and shit like that from all of this ultimately.
I think that will happen, but I don't think that that's the ultimate conclusion of this situation. I think that that's going to be a way of trying to stop and control the situation, but I think that they'll find that that's futile.
Certainly.
And I think what will happen is that the nature of information and what information is important for an individual is going to change. I think 50 to 75 years in the future, all the things that we consider to be our personal information, like our address, our social security number, whatever, that information is going to be irrelevant. The way we're going to be sharing information and communicating is going to supersede needing things like a social security number, and there's going to be some other form of identification.
Yeah, like universal ID kind of thing.
Some kind of bit cryptic
Very
bit
Orwellian,
number.
isn't it?
Yeah, because it's the only way you're going to be able to continue to track everything. Because there's 7 billion people in the world, and you leak information. Think of all the pictures you posted on the internet.
Everybody does.
Yeah,
right. Or the vast majority of people do.
Yeah, I mean, you're giving that up anyway most of the time.
What kills me is the folks that refuse to do that, and now they're all running around going, aha, it's like, you're fucked too, because people took pictures of you and put them on the internet at parties and stuff like that. So it's not like you're getting away from anything here.
They're just putting like corks in a big crack.
That's
it's
it.
still springing leaks other places. Yeah,
we're all going to drown here in this.
And once
they paradigm.
Perfect things like quantum computing and things shrink to the smallest possible qubit, the space contained within a piece of information, then that's when you start talking about transhumanism. That's when you start talking about there's this paradigm shift in what information is and how
really
you use
what's
it and
already
exchange
happening
it.
to
It's
us.
starting to, but it's just the very crest of it.
But you and I are becoming data.
Yeah.
Okay. Our commodity to the world is becoming data. This conversation's data. Yeah.
And it's quite likely to outlive us.
I hope.
But who knows how long? Who knows?
Yeah, no doubt.
Who knows if they can archive the internet? Once they get quantum computing and they start having crystal quantum computing, which they're working on, right?
Yes.
You could just archive the internet, back it up, in case your society. They do it with seeds and seed banks in the Antarctic.
So data is going to become the same thing.
Yeah, and there's moss piglets on the moon reading books.
What?
Yeah, there's fucking moss piglets on the moon reading books.
What's a moss piglet?
Like eating up the human DNA. A moss piglet, I don't.
Trying to clarify that, actually.
I'm even using my hands, man. What the hell? They're those extremophile things.
Oh, okay. They're like super tiny little bugs.
Yeah, but they look like cows, kind of. Sometimes I think they call them like sea cows or something.
I don't know. Sea cow's an actual thing.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about like the seal thing.
Manatee.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking sea. I don't know. You could look them up.
I know what they look like. Yeah, they're like just tubular with legs. And they got a big mouth on the front of them.
And they turn into glass when things are not going right for them, and then they reanimate
later.
Yeah, and they can be like in the vacuum of space and live, right?
Right.
So they took a satellite, a probe, or spaceship, and they sent it to the moon. They were trying to land this spaceship on the moon, right? And it was full of, and their colloquial names are moss piglets.
Okay.
Right? So they had all these moss piglets up there because they're extremophiles. They also had human DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? And they also had this huge archive stored on crystal of humanity.
Okay.
And it crashed. And the
satellite crashed?
Yeah, but they think that these extremophiles would probably be doing fine. So there they are up there munching on human DNA with our whole storehouse of information.
On a disc.
Yeah, moss piglets like eating human DNA and reading our archives on the moon. I'm just saying, I think this is what we do, people.
That might be a bit of an oversimplification of what's actually happened.
Hey, you can look it up, man. I swear to God, if you type into Google right now, moss piglets on the moon, there'll be an article you'll find.
That's messed up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is what kind of things people do, man. Anyway.
I think we've done enough on data, right?
Yeah.
This one killed me. I picked this for you.
Okay.
This comes from The Independent. YouTube removes videos of robots fighting for, quote, animal cruelty reasons.
Oh. Well, okay. They're ahead of the game, I suppose, right? They're already fighting for
the robots,
AI rights.
Man.
Yeah.
YouTube has removed hundreds of videos of robots battling other robots after claiming they are in breach of its rules surrounding animal cruelty. We have jumped the shark, Bubba.
Oh, my.
YouTuber and robot enthusiast Anthony Murney was one of the first to highlight the issue, who blamed a new algorithm introduced by YouTube to detect instances of animal abuse. Quote, there's a new algorithm that's trying to take down robot combat videos, he said in a video on Monday.
So I'd call that a mistake.
Well, we've talked about this a little bit, too, that we expect them to make a solution that's going to be just 100% that covers how many millions of users and billions of videos.
This goes back to what I'm saying about you can't. There's so much you can't police it, and even if you have an AI policing it.
It's gonna pinch people it shouldn't.
Right, or not catch people it should.
This is funny because this is inherently the problem with anything like a zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
Or these kinds of like rigid sort of black and white type laws and things is they always end up pinching people they shouldn't pinch. And this is just the same thing amplified a shit ton, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a disgrace to attention to stop this because it's ridiculous. We want to get YouTube's attention to stop this because it's ridiculous. Several other channels dedicated to robot combat have also produced videos pointing out the issue in an effort to get YouTube to restore the content. Quote, something weird is happening with YouTube. YouTube has started to take down robot combat videos, said robot YouTube channel World of Woodrow. Something has gone wrong basically with the YouTube algorithm whereby it thinks for some weird reason that robot combat is somehow showing animal cruelty or something of the like.
It's so funny because it's like, yeah, man, something went wrong. It somehow thinks that it's an AI. Of course it thinks robot cruelty is wrong. It's how do you explain the difference? Oh, no, you're a piece of shit. It's okay. Don't worry about that. It's only like the flesh and blood animals. This is why they don't like us. That's what I'm saying.
It's literally thinking, it's got more in common with the robots than it does with us.
Yeah, good luck explaining this. It's not a mistake. It's like, I mean, consider if it was reversed, right?
Right. Well, this is the thing, right? This is what keeps happening. Is every time these big giant social media platforms try to come out, we've got a fix. But these same people that are pension people that obviously are getting caught in a net they shouldn't be caught in here, okay? But we never talk about the magnitude of other stuff that is relevant to what they're trying to do that they're capturing in that net as well. So what I'm getting at is, you catch a fuckload of shrimp and some dolphins.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, you're killing the dolphins, right? It's
dolphin free.
The net doesn't care. The net did its job, right? It doesn't know that it shouldn't catch dolphins. It's just catching everything that's sort of in this area.
Dolphin free means that they just get thrown back in if they're alive.
I would sure hope so.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that they didn't actually
catch them.
Yeah, I mean, nothing different's happening. They're just, it's not like it's kosher. I'm saying,
right?
There's dolphins involved.
Neither is shrimp,
this,
for that matter. Already. Channels posting robot combat videos saw their content removed and received a notice from YouTube explaining that the videos were in breach of the community guidelines.
Dude, those people at YouTube are like, dude, I don't know what it's doing. Yeah, we've tried to make it stop. We don't even know what it's doing. We don't know. It's like it is totally like taking it off because it's abhorrent to this violence that it considers to be an extension of itself, right?
Have you ever tried to do something where you've got to ask Facebook or YouTube and then they deny it, or they ever take a post off and you got to like appeal it to have it put back on? I haven't done that.
Never, none of those.
I tried to change our name of our.
I remember that. I do.
And to this day, they still won't let me because they say the excuse I get is like this weird, and I've appealed it. I just do it for giggles now to see how many times I can appeal the same thing to say, because what they're explaining to me, the reason why they won't let me do it has absolutely nothing to do with the show, the channel, the group, or nothing.
Yeah.
It's like this weird boilerplate bullshit answer. And this is the issue where, people will get taken down and they make if not their entire livelihood, but a significant portion of their livelihood. And there's no phone number you can call. There's no like, how do you appeal this? Well, we have an appeals process. Well, anybody that's ever been through any of these social media's appeals process understands that they don't have an appeals process.
But consider that the people that they did have that you could have appealed to are the people who are seeing the worst of humanity and filtering it out, like you said, right?
Which is why they're trying to automate it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that those people, they don't want to deal with our name of our show, right? There are bigger fish to fry. And a lot of those people, they're saying they get really depressed and have like really bad issues, right?
Well, it turns out they've got to, a lot of these people are busy being embedded into political campaigns around the world as they make millions of dollars a day for Facebook and advertising money. Like they're spending enormous resources on that kind of stuff as they're out trying to manipulate public opinion and this kind of thing.
Podcast.
But when it comes to like this, if they take you down, they don't care. Like you're so insignificant to them in the grander scheme of
things. Like I was saying in that last show, there's people I know that have posted memes about orcs for D&D, and they've got flagged for racial issues.
That's bizarre, right?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I'm not anti-orc, man.
I suppose that if they want to validate that race, then go ahead. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's an orc. It's a fantasy character.
I don't think we need to do another article bashing social media. Obviously, it's a hot button for me, right?
I guess. I don't know.
You're always talking about it.
Yeah.
Always fucking bringing it up. They just infuriate me.
Well,
like the whole thing.
None of it's real. I was really thought out. They could do it. It's not. It's not always the genetics and the weapons, right? When you talk about having the power to do something, but not knowing if you have the wisdom to do it, right? Like this is a perfect example. They had the know-how to make social media platforms, but nobody had the wisdom. That's something probably way more complicated than the implicational ethics of a weapon or something. Right. That's probably a bit more clear and dry. But people probably didn't even know the parameters that they were going to be setting forth for social media exchange. They just knew they could.
Right.
So this is a perfect example. Social media is one of those things. It came out a little early. Nobody really knew what was going to happen or how to handle it when it did. We're all in this fucking Wild West together. We're going to have to figure it out, whether it's regulation or people adapting or information change.
The simplest way for us as individuals, the simplest way for humanity, for people to gain, I guess, some relevance in this equation, because right now you're irrelevant. A single person, even a group of people, is irrelevant to these organizations, man. You're so insignificant in the grander scheme of things. They don't care.
Yeah.
It's like people that yell at clerks at big box stores about the service. Like that person, they don't give a shit about you in any way. Just get your crap and get out. Like I got kids at home, and like that's what they care about. But I like this idea of there being either some sort of amendment to the Constitution, which further clarifies that you and your personal effects also extends to the information and data about you too. And once you have some sort of right to that, then all of this other shit has to fall in line behind that.
But everyone I've heard talk about it say they don't even have an idea. All the experts say they don't even have an idea how they would put an infrastructure in place on policing any of it.
Well, no,
so
you can't. That's the thing.
No, but I don't think there's going to be any changes until that's possible.
Well, no. If you give people their data rights back, like I think you have them anyway. I don't think we should even consider them something that you have to be granted. It's information about you specifically. That information should belong to you, and once you kind of start doing that kind of thing, then these social media companies will not be able to exist the way they exist today. They'll have to change because they can't. The money that they make is off of advertising, and this advertising is extremely valuable because it's so pinpoint accurate.
Then I guess I would say they probably wouldn't be able to change and would have to shut down because they don't.
Yeah, there'll be something else that'll have to take their place, or they'll have to.
It will be a lot different.
It will absolutely be a lot different. Yeah,
to be able to fit the criteria.
Well, the sort of the concept, like the Twitter concept, where everything you do is very public and goes out.
Well, we don't want that, do we?
No. What I'm saying is I don't think that's going to be the default anymore. Kind of like in Windows, when you go in, when you install Windows now, it's a huge pain in the ass when it's a brand new operating system because all the security is on, everything. You can't do anything with are you sure and yes and double sure and fuck you and come on, let's hurry up and get this.
Why is that a problem?
Well, no, it's a problem if you want to actually make the computer do something.
Right, but just change it on after you install it.
Well, that's right, and that's where I think it's going to be. It's right now. Privacy is for Facebook and these places is an opt-in thing.
Yeah, sure.
And I think ultimately though it's going to be forced to become an opt-out thing.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
So you're going to have to say, I want this post to be public, and I want all my posts to be public, or I want I think you're going to have to do that yourself because then, but see, here's the other side of this coin, because it's real easy right now to blame Facebook and YouTube and all these places that because, they're screwing me, whatever, right? But what this also does is it puts the responsibility back on you as the individual. So now there's no more blaming the bad guy, right? If you do something and it gets you in big ass trouble because you did something very publicly on social media, it's going to be on you. It's on you anyway.
If social media was to be regulated, it'd probably be regulated by the FCC, right?
If that happens, if that
happens, you can't say fuck so many times anymore.
Yes, I can, because I'm marked explicit. You think all pornography is going to disappear off the internet? Because
I don't know.
These social media companies will be regulated that way for sure, but not me. I'm marked explicit.
What if that changes as a part of these overall universal regulations?
We're rated R, restricted audience.
What if that changes?
Yes, people, don't listen to this in the morning when you're taking your kids to school in the car. Don't do that. That's not what this is for.
Yeah, I guess not.
Bug guts in your eyes, right? So guess what?
What?
The Matrix 4 is happening.
Right now?
It's being filmed. They've agreed to do the movie.
Really?
Yep. This comes from Vox. Keanu Reeves, Carrie Ann Moss, and Lana Wachowski will all return. Is that Lana or Lana? That's a Wachowski.
Lana?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Wachowski brothers.
The Wachowski brothers, yeah. Okay. They say a rising tide lifts all boats, and what could prove this adage more fully than Keanu Reeves' unexpected 2019 cultural surge, yielding news that The Matrix 4 is officially happening 20 years after the franchise first debuted. The actor's 2019 Keanu sense shows no sign of stopping, and now Variety reports that the star of the revolutionary 1999 film and subsequent sequels is reuniting with his co-star Carrie Ann Moss for the fourth film in the series. The previous three films, The Matrix Reloaded, and The Matrix Revolutions, have grossed over $1.6 billion in total.
They have done well.
It's great, though. How far ahead of their time were they?
Yeah, they were.
So much of that stuff. Even
very much so.
Even as an allegory, they were just so far ahead. Matrix co-creator Lana Wachowski will be writing and directing for Warner Brothers without her sister and co-creator Lily Wachowski. But she told Variety in a statement that the sisters' original shared vision for the franchise would be expanded. Quote, many of the ideas Lily and I explored 20 years ago about reality are even more relevant now. She said, I'm very happy to have these characters back in my life and grateful for another chance to work with my brilliant friends. One of the most compelling themes that has emerged around The Matrix since the film's release 2 decades ago is its resonance as a metaphor for trans identity, given that both of its creators have since transitioned. The Matrix's other metaphorical reinvention is far more unfortunate and unpredictable, the appropriation of its famous blue pill, red pill metaphor by the misogynistic men's rights movement as a symbol of waking up to the truth about the evils of feminism.
What the hell?
This is all news to me,
me
man.
too. I didn't know that was even in existence. What the hell?
Right? I always get the red pill, blue pill analogy about it always seems to be more politically motivated when I see it, or socially construct.
You see it in memes occasionally.
Yeah. And then I also see it for like silly stuff like fast food.
It's like reinventing a colloquialism like fork in the road.
Sure.
Yep. It's kind of neat.
It's all based on a movie, though. How neat's that?
Yeah,
huh?
It is neat.
In reaction to the news, fans of the franchise expressed hopes that the new film would be able to serve as some sort of corrective. Meanwhile, many Wachowski fans were happy just to hear that any Wachowski project, will soon be in production again after 2 successive box office failures with Cloud Atlas, which I kind of actually liked.
I've never seen it.
And Jupiter Ascending, which again I liked, but it just wasn't great.
I've never seen it.
They're good. It's like rollerblading in space. Followed by a struggle to find a large audience for their cult series Sense8 on Netflix. I've seen that. I actually thought that was pretty good.
Actually seen something.
The Wachowskis closed their Chicago production house in 2018. Until now, there's been little news regarding what other projects, if any, the siblings had on their schedule. So there you go. We're getting another Matrix movie, Bubba.
Well, that's cool, man.
I was thinking about that the other day. You remember the scene where the guy was, where Neo was talking to the guy on the ship, and he said he was like watching the code, the green, the green screen, and he asked him, why he looked at that and didn't just put the jack in so he could just see like what it was actually. And he said it was just more efficient to kind of look at the code kind of thing because he could still get a sense for what was actually happening. And I wonder, like, to me, that's a weird foreshadowing because I think that's what, again, hearkening back to all this data rights shit is actually what's happening now. It was like a metaphor or not, for how everybody's actually just becoming data. And if you look at the data, you can sort of predict what people are going to do.
Have you ever heard of spider bots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why? Why do I know?
Well, because that's kind of related to what we're talking about, I thought.
Like web crawlers, spiders?
Yeah. Yeah, they go out and gather up certain kind of information.
That used to be a really big deal back back a while ago, but I think Google sort of killed that, didn't they? Because wasn't there actually a website that was a search engine that was like called Spider or something like that?
Yeah, but I don't think that's
what it was.
Yeah, I mean, not essentially. No, I mean, I think it was. What I'm talking about was what the government was doing.
Oh no!
And using them to gather information to see. It was kind of like just watching the trend of events and stuff, and how those events would change when big things would happen in politics and stuff. And trying to get correlation and stuff. And yeah, it was like a big deal for a while, and either it just didn't go anywhere and they stopped talking about it, or it really got going well and they stopped talking about it.
That kind of reminds me of that same thing. It was remember the Bible code thing? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
That was a big deal for a while, and then it just sort of disappeared.
Yeah. Kind of faddish things, I suppose. I mean, the Bible code originates from the Jewish tradition. Once somebody turns 12 and they have their bar mitzvah, they're supposed to commit their life to studying the Torah and reading Hebrew, right? And all Hebrew alphabet parts have a phonetic value, a word that's associated with them, and a number that's associated with them, right? So they have these three associations. And so when you read the Torah, you can look up, down, left, right, and if you find any combination of characters in the Torah that add up to a certain date, or you can find certain words and dates, kind of like a weird Hebrew crossword puzzle, then that's essentially what the Bible code is, right? Okay. And that's what Jewish people have done since ancient times, right?
But now they have a computer that can just like rip through it, and
But it's not like I mean, it's been with us for a while. It just got into being a fad thing. The people heard about it, realized what it was, and that the computers were involved in it, and they made some movies about it, and there was a buzz about it, and then it just died off. Yeah, but it's been with us since ancient
culture.
Times.
It probably didn't go anywhere. They're probably still doing it.
Yeah, some people are. Some people are still really, and of course, Jewish people are.
There was another thing. It was sort of like that, predictive thing, or that would it was a. And you can Google this. It was a university professor, but they put like these random number generators all around the world. And all they did was record the numbers that it spit out. And then anytime like a major event or something would happen, they would go in and see if there was any statistical anomalies inside the numbers.
Yeah.
And they were consistently, his claim.
Yeah, was that they consistently
reflect things. Yeah.
Right. It's interesting. And
because he's saying that basically, I think the way he was attacking that is that there's a quantum significance there somehow. Sure.
And it would be interesting to research that and see, right, where that went to at some point and maybe talk about it. But I've often wondered that myself, like in my imagination and my mind's eye, I always kind of envision this set of numbers that is some kind of a risk calculator, right, that rises and falls. So to the point that when I go through an intersection, I always imagine that it rises a little bit, right? Because your chances increase. Most accidents happen in that fashion on intersections inside of small towns and stuff. and things like that, right? It's always this idea that because of the second law of dynamics, because entropy always increases, there's always got to be some kind of energy or will to energy to set something in motion to keep entropy from having its effect, right?
Okay.
For instance, as an example, if you didn't have laws governing how people would come up to a four-way stop sign, and how if everybody came to that stop sign together, if there wasn't some protocol, there'd be chaos, right?
Well, that's the assumption, yes.
Yeah, that's the assumption. So that you would set a law to counter the chaos
Right.
that would potentially occur. So another example of that is, say, having seat belts on, right, that keep you in control of your vehicle. So if your vehicle gets bumped really hard from the
Right.
side, you don't get knocked over to the other seat because you didn't have your
Or
seat
go
belt
flying
on.
out the window
Yeah,
or
and
whatever.
lose control
right.
of your vehicle,
Yeah.
right? You're still able to maybe get it under control and not let it slam into a busload of kids or whatever.
Right.
Right. So, and it's not a matter of infringing upon someone's personal right. It's a matter of trying to control potential chaos in any given dynamic situation, right? There's so many variables in linear time that, and because entropy is always in effect, those variables will increase and things can get out of hand. So you try to mitigate that in almost every aspect of your life, even in the sense that when you consume food and air for energy, free radicals punch through your cells. People try to mitigate that
Right,
too,
yeah.
right? So we're always fighting against entropy. Call it old age even if you want. But I don't know why I'm even going on about this, but there you have it. There you go. I don't know, man. Whatever we were talking about had me thinking about how.
Well, no, we were talking about those random number generators and
yeah,
like
just
quantum. Like,
yeah, I wonder
there's
if it happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder.
Is there a quantum
yeah.
significance? Is there a? And you were saying how you kind of see that there's like a math equation, like this rolling math equation.
Well, for
life,
entropy,
yeah.
for everything you're doing, you're in some way trying to mitigate the second law of thermodynamics, right? The entropy, something getting out of control. So you're always putting energy of some sort into the system
To try to mitigate that.
Yeah.
To try to keep. It's not it isn't a question of if. It's only a question of when, though. It's going to finally catch up.
Some forms will,
Yeah.
for sure. But while that's happening, while the inevitable is happening, you're trying to prevent other forms from happening that could take you out earlier. So if three people obey the law, the protocol,
Yeah.
and they don't let the chaos subside, but one guy doesn't,
Right.
two people could potentially get hurt, right? The chaos is always easier and bigger in its effect than the law is.
Right.
So even the three people stopped and obeyed it, the one guy that didn't doubled his potential because chaos is prone in a universe where entropy is always in effect.
Right.
Chaos is prone to have its fucking way. So you got to mitigate it.
Yeah, physics is really a bitch, isn't it? Like when
Reality, physics, whatever you want to call it, it's like you got to be careful. Yeah.
I saw this. I saw number stations pop up on a television show.
Oh yeah,
A couple days ago. Again,
not Lost, right?
No,
It was on Lost too.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Now I didn't know that's what they were then because I loved that show.
Yeah,
Like,
remember when they
fan.
were tracking the signal up, and that was a number station.
Yep. So it's one of those shows where someone will find something that looks really strange on a satellite photo, and then they'll go through like this whole process of dissecting it to the point where they actually reveal what it really is, kind of situation. And the way that they sort of broke that down, and they have this guy that's always on Joe Rogan that's like a former CIA guy, like something, I can't remember his name right now, but he they pretty much come off and say that it's basically like you said, it's codes that go out to that country's spies, basically giving them an update on geopolitical situations or whatever. So they have some sort of corollary thing that says when you hear this, then come home, or when you hear this, then take the red pill or whatever it is. Take the cyanide capsule or whatever. I don't know, but that's sort of how that actually works and what it's for. Is it's like this weird. And when they change, it's an announcement of some sort.
Yeah.
And you don't know because you don't have the other book.
They call them one book ciphers.
And you also don't know Because I think they're like weird too. Like there's some countries have multiple, some countries don't have any.
I think every country has one.
Do they?
I think so. I think one's been reported at least by shortwave radio enthusiasts.
It's a lot more fun though to believe it's some sort of weird Illuminati type situation.
It kind of is.
You think so?
Well, in a way, I mean, it's the government controlling spies. That's very Illuminati-ish.
You think maybe that's why they won't? Maybe we got to get a shortwave radio. That's how you join the Illuminati.
Yeah. I got the CONET project, which is a 2 CD set of recordings that were donated by shortwave frequency radio enthusiasts that had captured these signals, because that's the only way to capture them. Most people don't know about them, and the government's not coming forth with a lot of
information.
Yeah.
And no government is. That's what's weird about it.
Nobody would, right?
Yeah.
If that's what they're used for, right? But we don't know ultimately. But you can get this CD set called the CONET Project, and it's really, really weird sounding, man.
Yeah.
Like it's creepy. But then again, I can listen to like AM radio and get creeped out. So.
There's like a ton of them on YouTube now. And when we did that podcast, number station stuff, yeah.
Well,
when we did that podcast, I ended up joining the one number station group I could find on Facebook because we talked about it, right? And those guys are still very active. They're still recording stuff and publishing it, like, hey, this one came online, this one went offline. You know, they sort of they share.
They're trying to correlate it too.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, so there's a bunch of amateurs out there that are just collecting tons of data.
It's really cool.
On this stuff now.
That's one of the things I've thought about exploring more is shortwave radio and stuff. I always like the idea of people that put the pins in the map for people that they've contacted in other places, and the idea is to contact as many places. Kind of a cool thing. Yeah,
there was a guy that I worked with. I can't think of his name. Mark something.
Is he the guy from Donato's?
Yeah.
I met that same guy, and he's the only person I've ever known or seen. He took me to his house and showed me and like Craig England.
Yeah, he does. He had the he did the whole Morse code with. He had this little thing that you rocked back and forth to send the dots and dashes and all this.
So that you didn't have to learn Japanese.
Yeah, it's all the same code.
Yeah,
is that what it is?
Yeah, so that because they're all know that code. It's more universal and easier to learn than it is for people to learn other languages. Right?
Is that right?
Apparently.
I had no idea.
Because you could use it for different countries and stuff.
All the people that were in the Navy that did that, signalmen and all that, they all had to learn that as well. But it was kind of a weird. That's your backup of your backup of your backup of your backup.
Yeah, right.
When you're out there with a floodlight flicking the shutters open and closed, man, because that's the only way you can communicate with another ship.
Shit.
Yeah, shit has gone bad. Yeah.
I'm a sheet slitter. I slit sheets. I'm the best sheet slitter ever slit sheets.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Hour and 21 minutes, man. We covered all the articles. We had Anthony in here today. It was a lot of fun. We got Neil coming on tomorrow night. We got a physicist I'm still trying to get scheduled in here. And what else is going on? Criminy. There's all kinds of things happening. A chemist that wants to come on and talk. He's does super duper microscopes. The chemist that wants to come on here, it's what
electron microscope.
Yeah, like I've seen some of the imaging. They do images of ants and people.
Cool.
So I think he's in the development and sales side of that.
So he's probably trying to develop something that's a microscope that works on something smaller than an electron, like a neutron microscope, maybe.
Well, I think we're going to be talking to him about the sexy Planck scale stuff, kind of thing. So if they got a microscope that can get down to the Planck scale, that's pretty interesting.
They probably don't at this point. I mean, even if they were using
theoretical or something, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of, I follow this shit, right, because I'm always trying to find articles to come on here, but in material science, there's so much stuff that's happened in the last month.
Yeah.
Crazy, like thermal barriers for electronics. Now they can make electronics much smaller.
Soon, I was going to say, soon that's going to be tied with the quantum realm anyways, because, once you get down to qubits and the Planck length and all that, you can do some really weird shit with materials too.
I think it's rumored. I think it's Samsung is about to release a cell phone with a graphene battery.
How long is that going to last?
I'm sorry, how long will a charge last? And there's no details on it yet. I can say that there's YouTube videos where they first started developing the concept of graphene batteries and supercapacitors for commercial use. It all starts in a lab.
Yeah.
So there's YouTube videos you can watch of the engineers that actually did the initial development of some of this stuff, where they were actually printing the battery material on a DVD burner that you just stuck in a regular desktop computer.
Wow.
They just like changed the software to etch the proper design into the graphene sheets, so that it would take on a capacitive quality and store charge.
That's awesome.
And it's ridiculous. Like the guy said, with this technology, theoretically, if you made a cell phone battery out, and back then this was the little iPhones, not the big ginormous ones we have today, but the smaller ones. So what was that, like the 5 or whatever? And he said that you could charge the battery for your iPhone in something like less than 15 seconds, and the charge would last 10 days.
Damn.
And these batteries, they're not chemical batteries. There's no chemicals in them. They're just made out of carbon.
Yeah.
So that's what really first started turning me on to the whole material science behind graphene and its existence. It was a Nobel Prize winner for material science. The whole concept of this, 2-dimensional structures and all this. It's just mind-bending when you get into it. But the real-world ramifications of it are enormous, like enormously huge. Because as a material, it's so abundant to get. It's graphite, it's carbon.
Yeah, everywhere practically.
And when you're done with it, if you throw it in the trash and bury it in the ground, it doesn't hurt anything. Because it's just carbon, right? You can eat it. It's completely inert. It doesn't hurt you. And it's one of the most abundant things on the planet. So that this is becoming the revolution into energy transmission, into all these new material sciences and everything, for how it's going to have these enormous ramifications down the road on humanity is just, I love it. But there's no limit to it. I could go on for days about this shit, man.
It's pretty remarkable stuff, man. Like, it makes me wish I would live longer to see some of these truly interesting
Moore's
things.
Law, right? Twice as fast and half as much. Is that what
but
it's
I
called?
think there's some kind of like the older you get, the faster you age, or something too.
Well, you know what that is?
Yeah,
it's all perception.
I know, but still,
I told my
everything else in the universe seems to be relative. So.
That's why, when people go, well, the older I get, man, the years just seem to fly by. And I'm like, yeah, because they're such they're much smaller. A year is a much smaller slice of your total life every year. So it feels like it's going by faster.
I tell people, it's because you're getting bored with life. That's what it is.
All right, man, let's call it here. We got another show coming at you guys tomorrow night, folks. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Neil Thompson on, and Eric and I are going to try to finally make some sense of some of the big gaping holes in our understanding of electric universe theory, and try to understand what it's all about. So check that out. A big shout out and thanks for Anthony coming by the studio today, man. That was a lot of fun. Glad you got to hang out. Him and Anna came over. So thanks for listening, everyone. Check us out at www.noshitcast.com. It's KNOWSHITCAST.com. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you, especially Eric. Make sure you give us a rating on iTunes, etc. If you like what we do, please give us a share. We'd greatly appreciate it. And we will catch you all next time. Bye, Siggles.